The purpose of these lessons is to show you the logic behind the most basic Chinese characters, beginning with the simplest pictograms and later combining these elements to create more complex characters. If you haven't watched Lesson 1, I would recommend that you do so for a short introduction and a list of the reference works I have used. Keep in mind that these are not conversation lessons. I am merely arranging Chinese characters into groups with a common component, so that they are easier to memorize in case you are attempting to learn this language. And by knowing the origin of a character, it's often very helpful in understanding its various connotations today. As a foreign language learner myself, I need something to hold on to, because my native English differs so radically from Chinese. Most people would agree that Chinese grammar is simplicity itself. It's the writing system and the tones that cause the most trouble. This is where I come in, to try and help students of Mandarin by examining, wherever possible, the origin of the most frequent characters and by explaining why they mean what they do. Estimates vary, but it's generally agreed that about 1,300 characters are necessary to read a Chinese newspaper or magazine article, and 2,500 characters will enable you to read 99% of modern written material. An educated Chinese is believed to know about 4,000 characters. Don't be fooled by that seemingly low number. With 4,000 characters, one can create tens of thousands of discrete expressions, just as in any other language. Today's lesson is the human hand, and 4 of the many shapes that you will find in Chinese characters. Our first example is the actual pictogram of a hand, pronounced with a third dipping tone. Shou, shou. All 5 fingers are represented. Notice that the 3 horizontal strokes are written first, followed by a single vertical stroke. If we put this new character, shou, with the character we learned before, meaning people, ren, we have the Chinese expression for manpower, or staff. Ren shou, ren shou. English also uses a hand to mean to help or assist. For example, give me a hand, or we need more farm hands. Our next character is another hand, but this time it's the pictogram of a right hand, pronounced with the 4th and falling tone. You, you. We may only see 3 fingers, but it's still a simple primitive hand. In English, we often say on one hand, and later add on the other hand to show a contrast. Chinese does something similar, but instead of a contrast, you indicates an addition. Also, again, both, or furthermore. We haven't learned enough vocabulary yet to give a good example, but our next lesson will allow us to do that. Our next character is an ideogram with a pronunciation component. It's the character for book, or to write, and it includes another version of the right hand. This character is pronounced with a high and flat first tone. Shu, shu. It depicts a hand holding a writing brush and inscribing on some object, which, in the modern character, now looks like a simple square. This square is part of the phonetic component, which we will talk about in a future lesson. Our third character is an ideogram based on the characters for person, ren, and large, da, that we learned in Lesson 1. Look at its construction. It's a person with a hairpin and a cap, indicating a boy who has reached the age of 20 and who may now bind his hair and wear a cap to show that he has reached adulthood. As an adult, he is of marriage age. So this ideogram also means husband and is pronounced with a high first tone. Fu, fu. If we add the person pictogram and say fu ren, we have the expression for the wife of a high official, or the title Madam. For example, Wang Fu Ren, Madam Wang, or Li Fu Ren, Madam Li. Madam is placed after the surname. Now, when this new character Fu is coupled with a variation of our hand picture, it produces the logical idea of an adult giving assistance. Literally, an adult lending a hand. This character is pronounced with a rising tone. Fu, fu. Notice how the hand shape was modified to fit on the left side of a combination. The adult male is colored purple here to remind us that it's a phonetic element to aid in pronunciation. The tones, however, are different and must not be confused. Well over 80% of Chinese characters are phono-semantic compounds, like this. A radical, or semantic, category coupled with a phonetic, a clue to the pronunciation. The English words handle and hand railing both contain the word hand. In the same way, the two Chinese characters fu, assistance, and shou, hand, make up the expression for hand railing. Fu shou, fu shou. So, today we have a total of 5 characters, because one is actually a combination of 2 others. Now, let's put these characters in their proper positions on our color chart. Remember, blue is the color of the sky and represents the high and flat first tone. Green is the color of trees and plants and represents the rising or growing second tone. Red is the color of fire and destruction, where the voice drops and almost disappears, representing the dipping third tone. Yellow is the color of a sandy beach, which slopes down into the sea. Here is our color chart with today's characters and their correct stroke order. Shou, you, shu, fu, and fu. The following slide is the way these characters appear in printed form. For those students who need to learn the simplified characters, I have added the simplified version for shu. In order to overcome widespread illiteracy, in 1956 the People's Republic of China undertook the simplification of the most commonly used characters. I will introduce simplified characters after the traditional forms. From the personal experience of people familiar with both forms, it appears that writing simplified characters by hand is about 1/3 faster than handwriting the traditional forms. However, computer technology has led to both forms being equally fast to input phonetically. Now that we have 4 characters from Lesson 1 and 5 characters from Lesson 2, you will naturally find it difficult to remember the tones. My suggestion is that you prepare 4 sheets of colored paper, light blue, green, pink, and yellow, to represent the 4 tones of Mandarin. Divide each sheet into 4 squares and write the characters you have learned only in the proper square, leaving the other 3 squares blank. The colors and the different positions on the paper will act as a memory aid. Otherwise, you might have trouble recalling the proper tone. Start this practice early in your study of the Chinese language, and you won't regret it. Remember to review the colored sheets regularly to fix firmly in your mind the characters, their color, and their position on the sheet. So, what have we learned in today's lesson? 1. Chinese grammar is very simple. Chinese writing and pronunciation are not. 2. Recognition of 1,300 or so characters will enable you to read a magazine or a newspaper. 3. A vocabulary of 2,500 characters is enough for nearly all modern reading material. 4. A college-educated Chinese knows around 4,000 characters plus endless combinations. 5. The Chinese expression for manpower and how it relates to the idea of hand. 6. The pictogram of a right hand that is used to show continuation or an addition. 7. The character for a book or to write. 8. 2 separate characters, one for an adult male and one for expressing assistance. 9. The age of initiation into adulthood for boys in ancient Chinese society. 10. A polite form of address for the wife of a high official. 11. So far, we've seen 3 kinds of characters: pictograms, or drawings, ideograms, concepts, and a new one in this lesson, phono-semantic compounds, a drawing of an abstract concept plus a pronunciation aid. 80% of Chinese characters belong to this 3rd type of phono-semantic. 12. The most common way to say handwriting in Mandarin. 13. The People's Republic of China simplified many of the commonly used characters in 1956. Now you will find a short quiz on both single and double character expressions. See how many you can remember. As we learn more characters in following lessons, I will incorporate previously taught characters into more Chinese expressions. Thank you for watching and listening.